A billionaire CEO stopped walking in the middle of a crowded lobby because one exhausted delivery driver carried a last name she had not seen in over 30 years. Everyone assumed she was staring because his jacket was faded, his shoes were worn, and his young daughter stood beside him holding a paper lunch bag. The truth was far stranger. The quiet single father lowered his eyes and gently squeezed his little girl's hand. He never imagined that one simple word stitched onto his work badge had awakened a forgotten promise hidden for decades. Before we go deeper into this story, take a second and hit that subscribe button, give this video a like, and let us know where you're watching from. I'm curious to know how far these stories travel. The child smiled. The billionaire never looked away. Security noticed. Employees whispered. Then Helena Ashcroft softly breathed one word. Bond. Why did that forgotten family name leave one of America's most powerful women completely speechless today? Riley Bond never expected life to become so quiet after losing almost everything. Years earlier, he had spent his days restoring old books that carried stories from another time. He loved bringing worn pages back to life. He believed every broken thing deserved another chance. Then the small restoration shop closed. The bills kept coming. His wife became sick. Not long after, she passed away, leaving Riley alone with their little girl and a heart that never truly healed. Now every morning began before sunrise. He accepted delivery jobs wherever he could find them. Some days were busy. Some days ended with almost nothing in his pocket. Still, he never complained. 9-year-old Georgia Bond was the reason he kept moving. She greeted every morning with a smile that somehow survived every hardship around her. She packed her school bag without being asked. She reminded her father not to skip breakfast, even when she knew there was barely enough food for both of them. Riley always smiled back. He would tell her he had already eaten. She knew he was pretending. Either of them spoke about it. Their apartment was small. The walls were old. The heater worked only when it wanted to. But Georgia covered the refrigerator with colorful drawings that made the place feel warmer than it really was. Every picture showed the same thing. Her and her father together. On the way to school, Georgia filled the silence with endless questions. She wanted to know why old books smelled different. She asked why people threw away things that could still be fixed. Riley answered every question with patience. He believed curiosity was a gift. One afternoon she looked up and asked, "Daddy, do you think Mom still watches us?" Riley stopped walking for a moment. He swallowed the lump in his throat. Then he smiled gently. "I think she's proud of you every single day." Georgia reached for his hand. She never let go until they reached school. After dropping her off, Riley drove across the city making deliveries. One of his regular stops was the Ashcroft Foundation headquarters. The building stood taller than everything around it. People in expensive clothes hurried through the shining glass doors. Riley always stayed near the entrance only long enough to finish his job. He never imagined himself belonging inside. Across the street sat a small neighborhood cafe. Its owner, Isabel Herring, had watched Riley for months. She noticed how he always counted his coins before buying coffee. Some mornings he skipped it completely so Georgia could have an extra snack after school. Without saying much, Isabel sometimes added a fresh muffin to his bag. She never charged him. Riley always tried to pay anyway. She always refused. "Just keep taking care of that little girl," she would say with a smile. Before we continue, take a second and share your thoughts so far on this story below. If you have ever seen someone quietly carrying more than anyone realized, Riley's journey may already feel familiar. One rainy afternoon, Georgia handed her father a folded drawing before he left for work. It showed the two of them standing beneath a bright sun. Across the top she had written, "Good days are coming." Riley tucked the picture into his delivery bag without saying a word. He had no idea that before the day ended, those simple words would begin coming true in the most unexpected way imaginable. The rain grew heavier as Riley Bond pulled his delivery van beneath the covered entrance of the Ashcroft Foundation. He checked the address twice before lifting a heavy package from the back. Inside his delivery bag, George's drawing rested safely between the paperwork. He smiled for a second before walking toward the lobby. The building felt even larger than usual. Bright lights reflected across the polished marble floor. Employees hurried past with expensive briefcases and coffee cups. Riley quietly stepped aside each time someone walked by. He never wanted to be in anyone's way. At the front desk, the receptionist greeted him with a polite smile. She reached for the package information. Before she could print the delivery receipt, a loud voice interrupted the moment. Xavier Cody, the director of corporate security, walked across the lobby with 2 officers behind him. His eyes settled on Riley. He studied the worn jacket. He noticed the faded work boots. Then he looked at the little girl standing beside him. Georgia had come straight from school because Riley could not afford an afternoon babysitter. Xavier frowned. "This is a corporate headquarters," he said. "Employees only beyond this point." Riley nodded respectfully. "I'm only here to deliver this package." Georgia squeezed her father's hand. She could feel the tension growing. Several employees slowed their steps. Quiet conversations spread across the lobby. People glanced toward the single father, as if he did not belong there. Riley lowered his voice. "We'll be gone in just a minute." Xavier remained cautious. "Please wait while I verify everything." The silence became uncomfortable. Georgia looked around the room. Instead of fear, she noticed something different. Everyone seemed more interested in judging her father than listening to him. She whispered, "Daddy, did we do something wrong?" Riley knelt beside her. "No, sweetheart. Sometimes people don't know your story. Before we go deeper, I would love to hear your point of view. If you were watching Riley stand there with his daughter while strangers quietly judged him, what would you be feeling? Tell me what part is already touching your heart in the comments." Just then, the lobby doors opened again. Helena Ashcroft entered surrounded by assistants and board members. Conversation stopped immediately. She walked with calm confidence. Every eye followed her. She thanked an employee as she passed. Then something unexpected happened. Her attention shifted toward Riley. She stopped walking. Her expression changed completely. The room became silent. She looked at Riley's face. Then her eyes dropped to the delivery badge clipped onto his jacket. She read his name once. Then again. Riley Bond. For a brief moment, the billionaire CEO seemed unable to move. Harry Collins, her trusted corporate historian, noticed her reaction immediately. "Is everything all right?" he asked quietly. Helena never answered. Instead, she continued staring at Riley as though an old memory had suddenly returned. Riley grew uncomfortable. He wondered if he had accidentally broken some company rule. He picked up the package again. "I'm sorry if we're causing trouble," he said. "We'll leave after the delivery." Helena finally spoke. Her voice was barely above a whisper. "Did you say your last name is Bond?" Riley nodded. "Yes, ma'am. I've always been Riley Bond." Helena's eyes filled with disbelief. Somewhere deep inside her memory, that name refused to let go. She slowly turned toward Harry Collins. "Find every family record my grandfather ever kept. And do it today." No one in the lobby understood why a simple last name had suddenly become the most important word in the building. Not even Riley himself knew that his ordinary delivery had just opened the door to a forgotten family secret that would change every life in that room. Riley Bond left the Ashcroft Foundation with more questions than answers. He placed the empty delivery cart back into his van and sat behind the wheel without starting the engine. Georgia looked at him from the passenger seat. "Daddy, why did that lady keep looking at you?" Riley forced a small smile. "I honestly don't know. But she looked like she knew you. I've never met her before." Georgia nodded, but she was not convinced. Children often notice things adults missed. As they drove away, Riley kept replaying the strange moment in his mind. The way Helena Ashcroft had whispered his last name did not sound like curiosity. It sounded like recognition. Back inside the headquarters, Helena stood in her office staring through the window. Harry Collins quietly entered carrying several old archive folders. "I've searched the digital records already," he said. "There isn't much." Helena folded her arms. "My grandfather never trusted computers. He wrote everything by hand." Harry understood immediately. "If the answer exists, it will be in the old library?" Helena nodded. "Then that's where we begin." Hours passed. Dust covered forgotten shelves. Boxes that had not been opened for decades were carefully lowered onto long wooden tables. Harry examined faded journals, old photographs, business contracts, personal letters. Nothing explained why the name Bond sounded so familiar. Meanwhile, Riley continued making deliveries across the city. His phone rang. The landlord's name appeared on the screen. His stomach tightened before he answered. "I'm trying," Riley said quietly. "I just need a little more time." The answer was cold. Time had already run out. If the overdue rent was not paid within 3 days, he and Georgia would have to leave. Riley thanked him anyway. He ended the call before Georgia could hear every word. She looked out the window pretending not to notice. But she understood enough. That evening they returned to their apartment. The lights flickered again. Georgia quietly hung another drawing on the refrigerator. This one showed a little house surrounded by flowers. She smiled. "This is where we'll live someday." Riley looked at the picture for a long moment. "I believe you." He wished believing was enough. The next morning he stopped at Isabel Herring's cafe before work. She noticed the exhaustion in his face immediately. "You didn't sleep." Riley shrugged. "I've had better nights." She placed a warm breakfast sandwich in front of him. "No charge. I can't keep accepting free food." She crossed her arms. "And I can't keep watching a good father skip breakfast." Georgia laughed softly. Even Riley smiled. For a few minutes the world felt lighter. Then Xavier Cody walked into the cafe. He recognized Riley immediately. "I need a word with you." The room grew quiet. Isabel stepped closer. "If this is about yesterday, he didn't do anything wrong." Xavier remained calm. "I'm only asking him to come back to headquarters." Riley frowned. "Why?" "The CEO requested another meeting." Riley's heart raced. "I think you've made a mistake." Xavier shook his head. "We rarely make that kind of mistake." After Xavier left, Isabel looked at Riley with concern. "You should go." "What if they're accusing me of something?" "What if they're not?" Before we continue, take a second and share your thoughts below. If you were Riley, already struggling to keep a roof over your daughter's head, would you walk back into that building after everything that happened? Riley looked at Georgia. She reached into his delivery bag and pulled out the drawing she had given him. Across the top were the words, "Good days are coming." She smiled. "Maybe today is one of them." Riley took a deep breath. He drove back to the Ashcroft Foundation. When he entered the lobby, employees stopped talking again. Some recognized him immediately. Others whispered as he walked by. The feeling of being judged returned. Only this time it felt heavier. Helena was already waiting. She stood beside Harry Collins. On the table rested several weathered journals and a small wooden box. Harry looked both excited and confused. "We found something," he said. "But it raises even more questions." Helena slowly opened the box. Inside rested an old leather envelope tied with a faded blue ribbon. Across the front, written in careful handwriting, were 6 simple words. "To the Bond family, when they return." The room fell completely silent. Riley stared at the envelope. His hands began to shake. Helena looked into his eyes. "I believe this has been waiting for you far longer than either of us has been alive." Then she carefully reached for the ribbon, preparing to reveal a secret that had remained hidden for generations. Helena Ashcroft untied the faded blue ribbon with careful hands. The room remained silent. Even Xavier Cody stood still beside the door. Harry Collins gently removed a stack of yellowed papers from the envelope. The first page was a handwritten letter. At the bottom was the signature of Helena's grandfather, Aaron Ashcroft. Harry began reading aloud. To the Bond family. If this letter ever reaches you, it means I have failed to keep a promise that has weighed on my heart for many years. Helena lowered her head. She had never heard these words before. Harry continued. When my business was close to failing, a man named Samuel Bond trusted me when no one else would. He restored more than rare books. He restored my hope. I promised that one day I would repay his kindness. Life moved faster than I expected. I searched for him, but I never found him again. If his family is ever standing before mine, treat them as honored friends. Riley felt his throat tighten. His grandfather had often spoken about restoring books for a quiet businessman who always believed in second chances. He never knew that businessman had become Aaron Ashcroft. Georgia looked up at her father. So Grandpa was telling the truth. Tears filled Riley's eyes. He was. Helena stepped closer. My grandfather left more than this letter. She opened another folder. Inside was a legal document creating a family trust that had never been claimed because the Bond family could not be found. It was meant to repay a debt of gratitude, not to buy anyone's loyalty. Helena said softly. I don't expect anything from you. I only want to keep the promise he could not. Before we go deeper, I would love to hear what touched you most in this moment. If someone remembered a kindness your family gave decades ago, how would that make you feel? Share your thoughts in the comments. Riley looked at the papers but did not reach for them. My grandfather helped because it was the right thing to do. He never expected anything back. Helena smiled through tears. That's exactly why he deserves to be remembered. For the first time in years, Riley felt that the weight he carried was beginning to lift. He had entered the building as an unnoticed delivery driver. Now he stood as the missing piece of a promise that had waited generations to be fulfilled. But neither of them realized that honoring Aaron Ashcroft's final wish would change far more than Riley's future. The days that followed felt different for everyone involved. Helena Ashcroft refused to let the story become a public spectacle. She told her team that the Bond family's dignity mattered more than headlines. The promise her grandfather had left behind would be honored quietly. Riley appreciated that more than she knew. He had never wanted attention. He had only wanted a safe life for Georgia. The family trust paid the overdue rent before the eviction notice could become final. For the first time in months, Riley slept through the night without worrying about losing their home. Georgia noticed the change immediately. You smiled in your sleep, she whispered one morning. Riley laughed. I guess I finally had something good to dream about. Helena also kept another promise. She invited Riley to visit the Ashcroft Foundation's historic library. Thousands of rare books lined the shelves. Some had not been touched for years. She watched as Riley carefully lifted an old leather-bound volume into his hands. His expression changed. The man who had spent years hiding his talents suddenly looked alive again. You still remember how to restore them, Helena said. Riley smiled. I never forgot. I just stopped believing anyone needed those skills. We do, Helena replied. And we've needed them for a long time. Instead of offering charity, Helena offered him honest work. She asked him to lead the Foundation's book restoration program. The position came with steady pay, flexible hours, and enough time each afternoon to pick Georgia up from school. Riley accepted with quiet gratitude. His first project became Aaron Ashcroft's personal journals. As each damaged page was restored, forgotten stories returned to life. Harry Collins carefully recorded every discovery. The history of both families was finally complete. Xavier Cody also found himself thinking differently. He visited Riley one afternoon while he worked. I judged you before I knew you, Xavier admitted. I'm sorry. Riley looked up from the fragile book in front of him. It happens. What matters is what we do after we realize we're wrong. Xavier nodded. He left with a respect that could never have been earned by wealth alone. Across the street, Isabel Herring smiled when she saw Riley walking into her cafe wearing clean clothes and carrying a stack of restored books instead of delivery boxes. She placed 2 hot chocolates on the table. These are still on the house. Riley laughed. I guess some things never change. Georgia hugged Isabel tightly. Thank you for believing in my dad before everyone else did. Isabel wiped away a tear. I never had to believe. I only had to pay attention. Before we continue to the final chapter, think about Isabel's kindness. Sometimes the people who change a life are not the richest or the most powerful. They are simply the ones who choose to see someone else's struggle. Share the moment in this story that has stayed with you the most. One quiet afternoon, Riley framed George's drawing that read, "Good days are coming." Instead of keeping it hidden inside his old delivery bag, he hung it above his new work table. Every morning he looked at those simple words before opening another fragile book. Every evening he picked Georgia up with a smile that no longer had to hide behind worry. The promise Aaron Ashcroft left behind had finally been fulfilled. Yet the greatest gift was never the money, the job, or the restored family legacy. It was the reminder that one forgotten act of kindness can cross generations, heal broken hearts, and quietly lead people home when they least expect it. Some stories begin with success. Others begin with heartbreak. Riley Bond's story began with quiet sacrifice. He never chased wealth. He never searched for recognition. He simply woke up every morning determined to give Georgia a better life than the one he thought he could afford. That simple choice changed everything. A forgotten family name opened the door. But it was Riley's character that carried him through it. Helena Ashcroft finally found peace knowing her grandfather's promise had been honored. Harry Collins proved that history matters because every family has a story worth remembering. Xavier Cody learned that first impressions can hide remarkable people. Isabel Herring reminded everyone that kindness does not need a fortune. Sometimes it only needs an open heart. Georgia never stopped believing. Even when life felt uncertain, she held on to hope with the faith only a child can have. Her drawing stayed above Riley's desk as a daily reminder that brighter days often arrive when people are closest to giving up. Before we finish, I would love to hear your thoughts. If you have ever carried a burden that no one else could see, or if someone showed you kindness when you needed it most, share your story in the comments. Your words may encourage someone who is fighting a silent battle today. If Riley's journey touched your heart, please take a moment to give this video a like. It helps stories like this reach more people who need a little hope. And if you are a single parent doing everything you can for your children, know that your strength does not go unnoticed. Please leave a comment below. Our community would love to cheer you on. If this is your first time here, don't forget to subscribe to the Redeemed Single Dad. Every story on this channel is a reminder that courage often wears ordinary clothes, love speaks through quiet actions, and hope can appear when it is least expected. Thank you for spending your time with us today. We are grateful that you chose to be part of this journey. Until our next story, take care of yourself, take care of the people you love, and never underestimate the power of one act of kindness. Sometimes a single promise can outlive generations. Sometimes one family name can unlock a forgotten blessing. And sometimes the greatest treasures are not found in money or fame, but in the people who refuse to give up when life becomes difficult. This has been the Redeemed Single Dad. Thank you for watching. We'll see you in the next story.